direction. Come on. Is somebody listening this morning? In the Bible, there was a man called Cornelius. In the book of Acts. Now, this man, of course, was, a soldier, he was a general. And this guy was given to worshiping God. And one way this guy worshiped God was through thanksgiving. This guy knew that, there is a God in heaven and I need to worship him. This guy had a yearning in his heart for God. And because he knew that God had to be worshipped, this guy would always dip his hands in his pocket and he would always give to people. This guy was not born again. This guy was not a believer. But he touched heaven with his worship. So much so that God himself had to look down and say, who is that guy down there that is provoking me with worship? Do you know why? When you hold money in your hands, God is not looking at the money. God is looking at the heart with which you give the money. So God looked at the heart of Cornelius and God saw a man, that honors him. God saw a man that fears him. God saw a man that even though he didn't know the way, he just knew that God was hanging somewhere. And he knew that by giving, he didn't even know, but he just continued to give. And so God broke the protocol of heaven. And God had to tell Peter, God said, Peter, there is a guy called Cornelius. This guy's thanksgiving has reached me in heaven. I want him to be saved. I want his family to be saved. Listen, your worship can save you. In the days of trouble, in the days of travail, in the days of pain, in the days of turmoil, even when everything seems to be working against you, if you can just worship, if you can just acknowledge God as God, and you say, God, I know that you are the omnipotent. God, I know that even though I'm in the belly of a fish right now and there seems to be no hope, I know there is hope, and I give you praise. And you begin to sing songs of praise, then it's coming for you. Am I speaking this morning? Hey, when Paul and Silas, when they were put in prison, that was a dead end. Just like Jonah was in a dead end, Paul and Silas were in a dead end. If the Romans catch you and put you in prison, then you realize that nobody, because if you know what their prison was in those days, then these guys were bound with fetters. They were bound with chains. Their hands were bound, their legs were bound, and there was no hope. They were just waiting to die the next morning. But in the middle of the night, the Bible says at midnight, this guy said, well, if everything has failed, we have one formula that we know will not fail. We can provoke God to intervene in this situation through our worship. That is why, child of God, if you don't have anything at all, even if you don't have